All right, so I did two sessions today. The first session was upgrading from Windows Server 2003 to Server 2008 R2. So we've got an entire set of documentation from the preparation phase all the way through the migration to the cleanup and post phase, along with all the PowerShell scripts and tools that allow you to migrate things, say like DHCP, DNS, Active Directory, all sorts of things from moving from Server 2003 up to Windows Server 2008 R2. And then my second session I talked about, it was titled the IT Pro View of Windows Azure. That was essentially kind of multi-phase. First is getting IT pros aware of what Windows Azure is, which is Windows Azure's Microsoft's platform as a service offering. And then, so I give them kind of a high-level overview of kind of what Azure looks like, what are the roles, the main terminology. And then from that point on, we go into what does an IT pro actually do with Windows Azure. And we talk about how the role really is very similar to an application today. A developer creates an application, hands the application off to IT. IT is then responsible for deploying it, managing it, monitoring it, and those things. So I show how we do that with Windows Azure. Well, so for me, and particularly as it relates to the IT professional, it really is, and it's not just Microsoft. I think it's kind of all around. It's all the cloud. So and cloud exists in kind of three different phases. You've got software as a service, platform as a service, infrastructure as a service. And for us at Microsoft, we're really one of the only places you can go to capture or to leverage all three things. So whether you want to take an application, run it up into Windows Azure, if you want to implement things like Office 365 for software as a service. So let's say I'm tired of chasing the hardware on the one side and I want to put my Exchange servers up in the cloud, I can absolutely do that, all the way down to building your own cloud, which we do with private cloud. And we made a lot of announcements around that last week at the Microsoft Management Summit around private cloud and how the new System Center line of products and along with Hyper-V actually enable that private cloud. So really it's all about the cloud. So what's next for, okay, so right now we've got, there's a lot of irons in the fire for me right now. After this conference, I'll be heading to another conference in Las Vegas to present, again, the same thing, more Windows Azure content. We've got a tour and a roadshow coming up that we're working on to bring more deeper content around Windows Azure to the IT professionals. So really getting down and dirty in terms of using PowerShell to deploy Windows Azure applications. How can we implement System Center to help manage Windows Azure? We also have TechNet coming up. So I've got sessions at TechNet. So I've got another Windows Azure IT Pro session, which is very similar to the one I did here, though we're probably going to spend less time about what it is and more about how we actually go do stuff with Windows Azure. And then, of course, for TechNet Edge, we've got all of our live shooting that's going on at TechEd. And then it's a lot of road time. It's a lot of airplanes and standing in front of people talking about stuff. We're going to do a tour, and typically my content when I release it, we go out and train trainers and talk to communities, user groups, anybody who will listen about Windows Azure. So it's not like a formal tour, with T-shirts and everything and backstage passes and all of that. No, it's more just trying to get into cities where there's a user group that requests a particular session, or if there's other conferences. I'm doing other third-party conferences outside of Microsoft to really kind of try to push the story around, hey, look, number one, the cloud and IT Pro, your job's not going away because of the cloud, and really kind of showing the role of the IT professional. And it's not just with Windows Azure, although that's what I tend to focus on, and since I'm a server evangelist and Windows Azure evangelist, but also cloud in general, right? So, hey, IT Pro, look, all the things that you do, you deploy, you manage, you monitor, all of those things, they're not changing. And the reality is there's also still going to be infrastructure in an environment, right? You still are going to have PCs to manage. You're still going to have an Active Directory to manage. You're still going to have to manage how those permissions go back and forth between the cloud and your on-premise infrastructure. If you have to deal with compliance, like their governance, any of those things. The reality is you can't go and uplift all of your customers' credit card information and go throw it up into a cloud-based solution. The compliance does not allow for that right now. So until some of those things change, an IT pro absolutely has a role, and that's really kind of what I'm trying to get out. Because all too often you hear people say, hey, look, the IT pro's job is finished, and that's just not the truth. The truth is you've got plenty of things to do now. In fact, I think there's even more of an opportunity for an IT pro today, especially with the cloud. In fact, we can do more. We can learn cooler, newer technologies. We can get things implemented faster instead of chasing around hardware all day long, which is really what we used to do. You can actually leverage cloud technologies, get stuff out there quicker, get those items that have been on your desk for a long time going, if I only wish I had the time to do this, then yeah, go ahead and click the checkbox and get it on. So that's really kind of the message that we're trying to do with any of the events that we're doing now. So.